Good morning, dear friends. I'm just now returned from a visit of 12 days, I think, away from the Empty Cloud Monastery, where I had the wonderful gift of meeting several old friends, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, who have been my friends for decades, as well as meeting new, younger bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, and those who were experienced, great Dhamma teachers, great practitioners. This encountering within the Sangha has got such a strong feeling of mutual help and mutual support. For example, I learned that my teacher, my root teacher, Bhante Gunaratana, at the Bhavana Society is going to be honored. Well, he's going to be honored on December 7th, I think, for his 99th birthday. And he's going to be honored on May 2nd, 2026, for the opening of the Bhante G exhibit. So they're opening a new museum, a new building there with a museum, an auditorium for teaching events, and some more housing facilities. So it's so lovely to know about these great things and to consider whether I should be going hither or then thither to help and support my monastic friends, or whether I should try to get my monastic friends to come hither to the Empty Cloud Monastery in order to help and support me. But it's a mutual kind of I won't call it a churning. It's not a churning, but it's a intermingling and encountering. Maybe more like the way that you could say the perfume of virtue travels through the air and penetrates the air. So the same way the spirit of friendship with the Sangha interpenetrates across all the places that we visit and see. I chose a couple of suttas to speak about this morning. We can start by giving respect to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sanghang saranang gacchami. I take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. I chose 3 little suttas, which all have the same title, Before Awakening or Before My Awakening. This is the Buddha speaking. He said, mendicants, before my awakening, when I was still unawakened but intent on awakening. I thought, what's the gratification in the world? What's the drawback? What's the escape? So the one who is intent on awakening is the Bodhisattva. That's the term that the Tathagata used for himself before he obtained his full enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. And then it occurred to me, the pleasure and happiness that arise from the world, this is the gratification. Can we feel the tenderness and love that the Buddha had for the whole world, or that the Bodhisattva had for the whole world? Looking about, seeing the sky, the clouds, the birds, the animals, the rice paddy, the mountains, the valleys, the rivers, the ocean, all the creatures in the ocean, all the ecosystems of the world, all of the different sentient beings in the world, all of the invisible beings in the world, all the devas and radiant beings who were in this world, and even perhaps he's not even limiting it to this world, but also seeing the other world, seeing the amazing quality of the Brahma world, where the beings are living, subsisting on loving kindness, sympathetic joy, compassion, and equanimity, where they live purely, cultivating those beautiful states of mind. What a wonderful world that is. And even seeing beyond that to the immaterial realms, to see the immaterial world, the world of pure form or pure mind, pure consciousness, which has the utter stillness and which is free from all the disturbances from sensual gratification. And so the Bodhisattva was not one who hates the world. He's not one who's rejecting the world, saying, I don't want this world, get rid of this world, anything like that. The Buddha is acknowledging the pleasure and happiness that arise from the world. So that's the gratification. But then the next sentence, the Bodhisattva saw that this world is impermanent, suffering, and perishable. This is the drawback. The word anicca means impermanent, and it also has a sense of what's unreliable. So if you said that you wanted your practice or your meditation to be nicca, I'm going to have not anicca, but nicca. That actually is a term, and if a person is kind of steadfast and dependable, you don't say that they're absolutely permanent, but you could say they're reliable, because they're nicca, like that, reliable. But anicca, not reliable, can't count on it. So things don't turn out the way we expected. What was promised to us doesn't come. So it's unreliable in that way. And then the dukkha aspect, the unsatisfactory aspect, ranging from the severe anguish of the trauma that a person can have when something that they're strongly identified with is ripped away. Like if you lose your parents, if you lose your small child, if you lose your spouse, if you lose your position, if you lose your house, if you lose all your wealth, if you lose your health, all of those things, then a person can be not only suffering that loss, but they can also be psychologically traumatized because of their attachment to those things. So, I have a little notebook that I was keeping my diary in, and during my trip, I lost my notebook. So, but that's completely irrelevant. I'm not the least bit suffered by it. I only suffered because I wasted 20 or 30 minutes looking around to see if I could find it. But so that's there's a kind of way that everything is changing and it doesn't bother us because we just say, oh, look around, oh, it's changing. Oh, look at the clouds, they're changing. Okay, I don't feel sad because the clouds are changing. But when my body is changing or when my relatives pass away, then I can take a trauma from that. That's where the strong dukkha comes. And then and then the perishable, this is the word, the Pali word, viparinama dhamma, having the nature of viparinama. So it's changing all around. And this is particularly a word that is sometimes applied to the weather or to the natural disasters. So there's a special kind of dukkha when a flood comes through and wipes away the entire village and everything is wiped away. Or when a fire comes through, or when a tornado comes through, or when some great, what in the West we call the act of God, a tremendous disaster. So even though we're careful and we're good and we're moderate and we're wise and we have a balanced life and we just make our home to be just enough to be what we need for our shelter, to shelter the body. We make our robes to be just enough to protect the body from the sun. We're not asking too much, not taking too much, not being unreasonable. And then little by little, we build up, just what we need in our life. When I came home from my trip, I noticed this because so far my room is relatively simple and I only have a small number of things, and all of the things I have are the things that I'm really using, and there's only a comparatively small percentage of things in my room that are irrelevant, extra, just redundant to my needs. So even if a person does everything right like that, nevertheless the viparinama, the weather disaster, will come and it will sweep everything away. So the world is like that. That's the danger in the world, the drawback in the world. Adinava, Mother Sujata translated as drawback. It's often translated as danger. And so, and it's especially a danger because of the second arrow of the sorrow, lamentation, grief, the clinging, and the upset that we take on because we are identified with something in the world which is changing. Okay, so then last is the escape. Removing, giving up desire and greed for the world. This is the escape. So chanda is called desire. Raga is called greed. Chanda is very close to like wishing for this and that, wanting this and that. I know in your world, not in my world anymore, but used to be in my world. Now it's in your world. If you wish for something, you can let your fingers do the walking and go on the computer and find it. And then you can push a button and order it, and it will automatically be deducted to your bank account and added to your things that you keep in your room. So that's the kind of, wishing. But the Buddha does not condemn all chanda. All wishing is not condemned. If a person wishes for the escape from suffering, and I hear about this path of practice, and have the wholesome desire to make effort, to make right effort, and to practice according to the teachings of the Buddha, because of their wish for peace, their wish for freedom, their wish for the escape from suffering, at the intermediate level or the sort of the beginning level of our practice, those kind of wishes can be wholesome. And even if a person is practicing generosity or practicing with their morality, and they're doing that because they wish for happiness, that's not condemned. But this chanda raga, the wishing to satisfy our, it's really satisfying our emotions. So raga is like a passion, or it could be lust for pleasure, the lust for a 5-course gourmet meal, or the lust for the most beautiful girl in the kingdom, or the lust for being the best, or the lust if you get caught up, maybe you're rooting for your sport team or something, and you want your team to win, and you get like swept up with the crowd with all those emotions, go team, go team, go team, and then if they win, you feel thrilled and great. So that's kind of like the chanda raga, and that's a big danger. So this is what the Buddha said: find out how to give it up, and then find out at a more and more subtle level, at more and more inner level, coming more to the core. Even if something happened and you found it difficult to breathe, you would realize that something as simple and natural as breathing, all of a sudden you've got a craving to get the next breath. But if you have completely done the work, if you've completely cleaned out the stable of greed, then that lust is gone. And even if it's the last breath, you're able to say, okay, goodbye breath. It's the last breath, not any desire for another one. So he said, and it's for the world. Now I'm going to answer the question in a couple of minutes. What is the world? You probably know, if you've been studying Buddhism, that it's a bit of a trick question. This is not just about our greed for things outside of us. But the Buddha here said, as long as I didn't truly understand the world's gratification, drawback, and escape in this way for what they are, I didn't announce my supreme, perfect awakening in this world with its gods, maras, and divinities, this population with its ascetics and Brahmins, its gods and humans. The gods are the devas. Those are the gods who love pleasure and love to enjoy pleasant sensations, pleasant feelings. The maras are that's actually one of the one of the devas is Mara, and that's the one who's said to be the sometimes called the evil one, or sometimes the one who's trying to block us from prevent others from escaping from the world of sensual desire. That's kind of the role of Mara, is the one who's putting up impediments. And then the divinities is referring to the Brahma realm, which is those divine beings who live in the realm of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, who dwell in the divine abidings. Then the ascetics and Brahmins is referring to two different basic religious types that were important at the time of the Buddha. The ascetics being those who had left behind the family, who had left behind all the accoutrements of wealth, who lived as mendicants, carrying nothing except their robes, living outdoors, experiencing hardships, and practicing meditation. And the Brahmins is referring to the religious class who were householders, who were involved with hearth-based spiritual practices, like keeping the sacred fire burning in the hearth, having sacred bathing in the sacred river, making all the aspects of the householder life or the ordinary life to become sanctified in a way through behaving with that sacred attitude, and also memorizing the sacred text and preserving the sacred text. So that's, those two kinds. So the Buddha is addressing all of them: ordinary people, all those who were born, the ascetics, the Brahmins, the local gods, and the humans. But then he says, when I did truly understand the world's gratification, drawback, and escape in this way for what they are, I announced my supreme perfect awakening in this world with its gods, Maras, divinities, this population with its ascetics and Brahmins, its gods and humans. Then he said, knowledge and vision arose in me. My freedom is unshakable. This is my last rebirth. Now there will be no future lives. Some of you who are educated, who've studied the life of the Buddha, might have heard that just before his awakening, the Buddha saw his countless previous existences, his past lives. And then he saw the past lives of other beings, and how beings live and die and are born again according to their karma. And how he saw the destruction of the asavas, of the inner taints, the inner defilements, and how he directly experienced the freedom from the taints, freedom from the defilements. And then he said, my freedom is unshakable. This is my last birth. Now there'll be no more future lives. This is a little bit of a puzzle that scholars can struggle about. So the Buddha only woke up one time. He didn't wake up again and again. So how can it be that the suttas that are passed down to us give a variety of different descriptions of what the Buddha realized when he woke up? in some suttas, he mentions the practicing sila, samadhi, and panya, culminating in the 4 jhanas, and then based on that, turning to the awakening. And then in other suttas, he speaks about sila, samadhi, and panya based on the 4 jhanas, the 4 immaterial meditations, and the cessation of feeling and perception. So the 9 jhanas is the preliminary to the opening of the wisdom and the final awakening. So which was it? Was he practicing 4 jhanas or was he practicing 9 jhanas before he obtained his awakening? He didn't get awakened several times. And so scholars are wondering about this. So I'm going to show you a couple of other descriptions that Buddha gave before I circle back to that question about why there are different descriptions about what the Buddha saw that comprised his awakening. So this was about the world. Okay, now. Okay. Here we are. This is the previous one was in the Anguttara. This is in the linked discourses 22-27. It's about gratification. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry, I'm going to do that one later. Okay. Before my awakening, external. Before my awakening, when I was still awakened, intent on awakening, I thought, what's the gratification, the drawback, and the escape when it comes to sights? All those visible things. I was just telling you about it, the beautiful blue sky, the clouds, the meadows, the fields, the birds and the bees, the animals, all the creatures. Those are all visible sights. With regard to sounds, that lovely song of the birds and the humming of the bees and all those external things. When it comes to the smells, the aroma of the fragrant flowers like the jasmine flowers and the beautiful aroma and the aroma of the meadows and the fields and the freshness of nature, and the tastes of the wonderful food that people were so kind that they gave us delicious food to eat at the time that we were hungry, or delicious water to drink when we were thirsty. And so these are all those external things. And then the ideas, all those beautiful ideas. Aren't ideas beautiful? When the Buddha said, there's 84,000 Dhammas. Any Dhamma I could mention here. This is a saying of the Buddha. And when you hear this teaching, your heart jumps up and says, I feel happy when I hear this teaching. And even if it's not a Dhamma teaching, even if it's something mathematical, like if I say that 7 is a prime number, because it can't be divided into another even number. And I could say, 7, and I could think about 7, and I can feel happy. I could see how beautiful 7 is. So all of these things I have, just as like I said before, they have the gratification. And they have the danger because of impermanence, and they have the escape because of giving up the longing. So then, instead of thinking about all of those phenomena in the external world, in this sutta, you bring it back to just notice the phenomenon right at the gate of the senses. So our experience as human beings, that we sense a thought, or we sense a feeling. Excuse me, I should have changed this. Let me see. Is there some way to? I know there's a way to change this, but I don't know how. This content is being shared. Okay. Well, anyway, I'll change it here. Stop the screen and start another screen. Share this screen. And okay, I'm just doing this so you can get the reference. This one I'm talking about is the exterior on the six senses. And now I'm going to go back again. I'm going to stop this one. And I'm going to show you the one before that. This is the internal. And so before I was awakened, I thought, what's the gratification and escape about the eye itself, the seeing faculty, about the ear itself, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. And then he thought about the pleasure and happiness that arises from the eye. Do you enjoy having eyes? Are you glad that you're able to see? If something happened to your eyes and you were not able to see anymore, could you feel sad or even traumatic and be in grief and sorrow and lamentation because you lost your eyes? Or even if your eyes started just go downhill a little bit and you can't see so well, so that every time you try to read a Dhamma book after you've read for 15 or 20 minutes, you got a big headache because your eyes are not working properly. And then you start to feel crabby and upset and distressed because the eye's not doing what you want it to. So that's we love having eyes. We love having a nose and being able to notice the smell and the fragrance of lovely things. We love even a bad smell. I love having a nose that can tell me when there's a danger. So if the gas is leaking, my nose will tell me, oh, danger, danger, take care of it. Or if the food is rotten, the nose will tell me, danger, take care of it. Or if something is, sweet and delicious and lovely, the nose will tell me, oh, here comes something good. You can relieve the hunger in your body because you have used your nose to find something that will be good for you. So you're so grateful to have a nose, so grateful to not be completely paralyzed and have no touching sensations throughout the body, but instead to be able to have sensations and to feel the body, both for the good and bad, for the comfort and ease of touch, as well as to help us with our life, because if there's a touch which is dangerous, we can react to make ourselves safe to get away from it. So the touching ability of the body, we love it so much. And for the mind, we can use our mind, we can use our intelligence. We can tell the difference between what's helpful and harmful, what's true and false, by using our mind. So the mind is so great. If you got advice from your doctor that you've got a disease related to aging and you are going to certainly be losing your mind, And in the future, you wouldn't be able to remember all the Dhamma talks that you've learned. That in the future, you wouldn't be able to recognize even your good friends or your relatives, that you wouldn't have those mental abilities. A person could be really scared, really frightened, because it's great having a mind. That's so much happiness that comes from being a conscious, sentient beings with these sense faculties. That's the gratification. And it's important to acknowledge that in order to go beyond it. You can't just sweep it under the rug. But all these things are impermanent, as we said. So the eyes could fail so that you get a headache when you try to read. The nose could fail so you could be in a room where the gas is running and you didn't even know it. So you don't save yourself in that way. You could be paralyzed from the neck down, but you'd still have your head, even if you're totally paralyzed. But nevertheless, you could have all different things cut off. You could cut off one arm, cut off two arms, cut off two arms and two legs, cut off different parts of the body, and so these things will happen to us until the very end, in which it will all shut down. The entire sensing faculty of the mind is going to shut down at the end of this life. So that's the danger. And the way to happiness is removing and giving up desire and greed for any of those 6 interior sense fields. And then he gives exactly the same message about when he finally understood this, then he announced his supreme perfect awakening, and the knowledge and vision arose in me. And here comes the bonus, another from the Samyutta. He looked for the gratification regarding form. We call it the living body. And he saw with wisdom the full extent of form's gratification, as I've been describing it. He searched for the drawback of form. He found it. He saw clearly with wisdom the full extent of the drawback in form and the escape. And he found the escape. And likewise, for this is each of the 5 aggregates, which is a different way of looking at the all. Form, feeling, perceptions, that's the mental, the feeling, that's the first as part of the mental functioning in relationship to our experience, so that when a sense impression comes through the gateway of the senses, there is already a beginning of processing and evaluating that experience to recognize it as being either pleasant or not pleasant. Then all of the rest of the mental processing follows on. So the feeling is like the first gateway of experience from the material body coming into the mental experience. And then conditioned by feeling, there comes to be perceptions. We recognize what things are. It could be that we cultivate perceptions to conceive of things in a certain way, like conceiving of our experience as being impermanent. That's part of perception. So develop the perception of impermanence. And then based on perceptions, which are either wise or unwise, some perceptions lead to unwholesome states of mind, unwholesome choices, perpetuating ourselves in suffering. Some perceptions lead to skillful choices. So if we perceive yummy, yummy food, that's going to lead to unskillful choices. If we perceive this is impermanent, if we perceive I can see the gratification, the danger, and the escape in this food, then that kind of perception is a skillful perception, which leads to skillful choices. So then the choices, that's the decisions, what we're going to do about it, the intentions, and then the consciousness. This is circling all the way around to that world. So the consciousness knows the world. The consciousness knows each and every single contact through the gateways of the senses. The consciousness builds up in the mind a world inside, which is the picture or the reflection of all of the things outside, and also the nature of the equipment we have in the sense faculties, and the nature of the inner equipment we have in terms of the mental faculties. All of it comes together and it creates the world, and that actually is the world you experienced. So you didn't really experience the blue sky and the clouds and the meadows and so forth. Actually, you experienced something inside of your own head to what's happening inside of your brain. And it's for this reason that liberation is possible, that the escape is possible. We don't have the power necessarily to change the sky into something else, or to change the meadows and the mountains into something else, but we completely have the power to change what's happening inside of this head, or what's happening within this mind. And that's the reason that there is an escape with regard to all of these phenomena. Just the closing thought that I have about this is that, in my opinion, the Blessed One, who was a real human being, who was a real bodhisattva, who developed so many perfections over so many lifetimes, that in that last moment, that he did have one realization that was so comprehensive and so global that it's almost, would be impossible to put into a single sentence what that awakening consisted of, or what was the truth that he realized. And so then, in retrospect, as the Buddha now, as the teacher, is trying to describe what he experienced, that showed him that he had realized it, that he used words as a poor substitute, but the best substitute we have to point out from different angles or from different perspectives what that awakening consisted of. I do believe that even if we think we're so far away from enlightenment that there's not even a chance that we're going to get Nibbana in this lifetime, some people might think that. Nevertheless, by listening in an open-hearted way to these different descriptions that the Buddha gave of his own life and his own experience, is creating something inside of our head, inside of our mind, that then can intuitively integrates into a vision of what Nibbana is. And if we were so fortunate that in our practice we have a chance for even stream entry, having that opening of the Dhamma eye, to have the realizing about the cessation of the craving and clinging, of that taste of freedom, that we'd be able to recognize it, and that we would see that it's in accord with all of these different descriptions. And so therefore, I repudiate any description that any scholar gives if they claim that these suttas are not authentic Buddha vachana, but instead are things that were created by the tradition later on by inferior people who didn't understand and were not enlightened, and they just put random words together in following some kind of a formula, and used like a mechanical formula to fill pages with writing or to fill hours with Dhamma talks. No, I don't think that's what happened. I believe that the disciples of the Buddha were absolutely dedicated to making the effort to preserve the Buddha's words, and that they were successful despite changes in culture, changes in context, in passing down the memory, so that to a very substantial extent, the Buddha vachana has been passed down in a way that it's available for us. Of course, times change and culture changes, and we may understand something differently than somebody a long time ago because we're in a different culture. But nevertheless, we have this gift of a window into that enlightened mind, and we have the opportunity to encounter hundreds, even thousands of subsequent Dhamma teachers through history who also followed this path and gained this awakening. So this is my formal talk for this morning. Here's just a few questions or comments. Madeline, thank you for the good wishes. Manal, difference between chanda, tanha, raga. So chanda is a word that's neutral. It could sometimes be skillful and sometimes unskillful, depending on what it's associated with. So chanda is just a wish or a will. Even, the house where I stayed recently when I visited the Bhavana Society, I visited the nuns' quarters up there, a little house that decades ago I had donated money for the renovation of that house. The previous owners of that house were named Will. That was their family name. And so Bhante Gunaratana named that house the Chanda House, because Will is one of the English translations for Chanda. So if Chanda was evil, he wouldn't name the nun's house Chanda. So there is wholesome Chanda. There's Dhamma Chanda, the desire for the Dhamma. There's a desire for liberation. So it's a neutral sense of desire. Then between tanha and raga, it's said that raga is a bit more developed and more strong or more extreme than tanha, and tanha is more like a basic instinct. So tanha translate as thirst, and so you could remember that you have a basic instinct. If you don't drink water or if you don't drink anything, the body will be thirsty. And when the body is thirsty, if you come across something to drink, it's just completely natural. Take a drink. If you're thirsty, so it's something that's almost like it's almost not mental. It's almost like it's coming up from the body, and then the mind engages with that. But then raga is more like a passionate, like if you were a gourmet aficionado of wine, and you could discern all the different qualities and levels of wine, and then when you go to take a drink, it's not just because you're thirsty. It's because you want that gourmet experience. So it's like it's a developed desire that's become a habit, and you've learned to love things, and you've learned to distinguish what's the best and the second best and the third best and the worst, and you've developed preferences and taste about those things, trying to get what's good for you. But then the raga also, because it's like developed like that, it can also be like the addiction. So if you're addicted to pleasure, then if you even have a slight temporary cutoff of pleasure, then you may feel extremely nervous and have an insatiable desire to keep getting more and more and more of your pleasures in order to satiate your addiction. So that's a very negative, unwholesome process. But the tanha, even though thirst is innocent, our natural craving for life, craving for more life, craving for further existence, craving for all the sense stimulation is a danger, because if we just follow tanha, we will go on to another birth, and we will keep going around and around in samsara. That's what tanha does. Okay, so that's all the questions I hear. It's wonderful to be back at the Empty Cloud, and I'm happy to speak with you, and we'll talk again next week. Sadhu, 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 anumodami.